Okay, so let's just start by turning. And just aim to turn as much as you possibly can. So you're trying to look behind yourself. So the whole body becomes twisted because the head is turning more than the hips. Feel the spine as axis, a vertical axis, both ends of which are open. So my sacrum is hanging heavily, stretching the spine. My tailbone is reaching down, open, like it's trying to extend out of itself and into the ground. And then the same at the top of the head. It's as though the top of your skull is open and there's like a torchlight shining upwards from your head. So thinking is like a sort of looping circulation round in the head. So we just want to open that up. So we're just beaming that psychic energy up all the time, rather than allowing it to circulate. And now knocking the gates of life. So we want this one to be quite whippy. So I turn and I pull back to the front. On this one, the head hardly moves. So you want to hit yourself quite hard so that your belly tightens in anticipation of the blow. And now breathing. So we want to feel the two phases of the breathing. So we'd normally think of the breathing as breathing in, followed by breathing out, breathing in, followed by breathing out. So now let's just look at it in terms of thoracic breathing, so chest breathing, and abdominal breathing or belly breathing. So let's try the thoracic first. Breathing in. So I'm sucking air in and opening my chest and leaning back a little bit. And then I just relax. So I relax that out. So I just relax back to sort of vertical and neutral. And then I breathe in again, expanding the chest, and then just letting it relax and deflate back to its normal. And breathing in and breathing out. So the breathing in is the phase where I'm making an effort. I'm working to really expand the chest and arch the back backwards to fill the chest as fully as possible. And then I just relax that and it will breathe out. And as you continue, just bring your mind to the tail. So we want the tail to point backwards as well as the head here. And then for the spine, just to come back to vertical, really. Now let's just pause in riding pause a sec, and then we'll try the belly breathing. So in the thoracic breathing or the chest breathing, we work on the in-breath. So we expand the chest to bring the air in. And then the out-breath is simply a relaxation. Now on the abdominal breathing, we just reverse it. So the work phase is actually the out-breath. So what I do is pull my belly right in. So it's like I'm pulling the belly in and pushing up inside to press the diaphragm up to breathe out as fully as possible. And then I just relax that and breath will come in. And then I pull the belly in strongly, but slowly. And then I just relax. So you're working the muscles of the belly to pull the belly in and up. And then you're relaxing. Breathing out. Breathing in. It's difficult because we're so used to associating the in-breath with the work phase. To just relax and let air come in seems strange. But here, really make sure you breathe out here. And then just let this just draw the air in. Here, my tail is coming under. My heels are trying to spread out even more. And then here, everything's just coming back to normal. The way we normally do this exercise is we just combine those. So let's try. So breathing out, then relaxing that, some air will come in, and then really making an effort to breathe into the chest, and then breathing out by relaxing, and then breathing out even more by pulling the belly in, and then breathing in by relaxing, and then breathing in even more by expanding the chest and arching the back. Relax that, some of the air will go out, and now work to squeeze the air out by bowing the back, and then relax that back to vertical, and then breathing in by expanding, breathing out by contracting, breathing in, relaxing, breathing in, expanding and arching, breathing out, relaxing, breathing out by contracting. So we just want to feel the phases, be clear in our mind about what's happening. Feel the active and the passive, if you like, the active and the relaxed. So this is active because it's working, and then this is relaxed and passive. And then this is active because it's working, I'm changing shape and volume. And then this is relaxing back to normal. Bring it to riding horse. So just check the feet. The positioning of the feet on the ground with the heels feeling as though they're further out than is natural just allows the sacrum to expand. It also feels like your sacrum is being encouraged to drift backwards. So like your bum is being encouraged to slip out. So there we just have to keep it in, not by pulling it in and tensing here, but by just imagining the sacrum being very heavy and just hanging down. So it's the heaviness of the sacrum that maintains the verticality in the spine. Again, feel the tail extending downwards. Keep that open, so energy is always streaming down. And then feel this point here. We want that to be almost like someone's sawn the top of your skull off. And there's like a beam of light just shining upwards. If you have that visualization, it's easier to feel the adjustment that needs to happen in the neck. So there tends to be too much of a kink here in the lower back, too much lordosis, and there tends to be too much of a kink here in the neck. So we want both of those areas to extend and lengthen. So the spine is as straight in its verticality as possible. In preparation for working on the form, let's just try and lift the feet. So I want to go down into the ground in order to lift the foot. So I'm not just feeling my center of gravity and moving it over my foot so that I can bring this foot up. What I'm doing is extending my tail. Let's just try just tipping the hips. So keep the legs a little bit bent, the feet not too wide. And now just tipping the hips. So we need this movement in order to direct the tail. Because in order to go into a leg, my tail needs to go around it like this into the ground. It doesn't just go down the leg like this. So I need to be able to just flick this hip up and out. So it's just figure of eighting really, but really feeling this like you're a belly dancer. So one hip is sort of going up and out to the side, and the other one is coming in and going down. So it's just single weightedness, really, the two sides of your body doing opposite things. Keep the legs bent enough so that when one hip comes up, this leg doesn't become completely straight. So something's coming up here and down here, and then up here and down here. bringing the heels up. Both heels remain off the ground all the time, but one is going down, almost touching the ground, as the other one really pushes up as high as it can. And just feel the movement in the hips again. Sacrum is hanging down. The sacrum is sort of inert. It's just a heavy weight that's hanging down, lending the posture some stability. Keep going until the feet just become so tired they have to go down. So we want to exercise the feet so the feet are really twisting, like the hands can. In Tai Chi, they call this the roof tile hand, where all the fingers are splaying, but the little finger the most and the thumb the least. So going either way. So we want the foot to be able to do the same thing. Pick a foot off the ground. So just feel your tail. So just imagine it sort of longer than it is, down to here sort of. And now just point it down into the ground, and then lift this foot off the ground. So feeling that the end of your spine has just extended, not through the leg, but sort of around the leg and then into the foot, into the heel. So going into my foot, it's almost like it's the idea of the tail. The tail starts and gets there first and draws the rest of me into it. It's not my head telling my body what to do. There's like a burst of interest or naughtiness in the tail that has taken it down. So when you get it, it just feels like you've pierced through the barrier between you and the ground. The barrier is just something that we put up in the mind. So it doesn't really exist, except in the tension in the leg. But here I want this real feel, almost like I could touch the ground. I'm so close to it. And now let's just try the beginning of the form. So the leg's not straight. You want this feeling that it's very easy just to go down. So the end of your tail is extending down into the ground. Okay, so the first is just stepping out to the side. So for that, again, we want to use the tail to go down into this foot and then step out to the side. So we want that to be under complete control. I'm extending down this leg. I step out. So I haven't brought my weight. I want my weight to move from this foot to this foot because my mind has switched. My mind has switched to the tail seeking this foot, to my tail seeking this foot. So that's a big switch. So nothing clumsy. So I'm going down. I step out. And then here, I just reach round that foot and draw myself in. Using the tail. Tail is extending down this leg. I activate the tail by turning away from the foot. And then I pull myself towards it, like I'm gripping the foot with my tentacle. And these toes come round. So the first thing we do is use movement to establish a strong, elastic, pulling connection to the ground. So I'm extending down. I step across. This extends down the leg, and then I just use this leg to pull myself across, circling the hands as I do so. So I end up with most of the weight in this foot. And these toes have come round. Just think of doing this, making 2 big circles. So I'm reaching down the leg. I step out. And then here, I really have to extend this. And that's just a switch in my mind. I go from this side to this side. And then I draw myself around. And here, and just make sure you've got the outside edges parallel again. So the feeling that your toes are coming in. And then just relax the wrists. Just imagine that your wrists are being pulled up by the puppet man, so your shoulders remain completely relaxed. That's about as high as they can get. And then bring the mind into the elbows and imagine there's heavy weights hanging off your elbows, which start pulling the hands in as the elbows descend and then down. So as you sink, still you've got a feeling of this. These 2 hips are sort of doing this all the time. So the positioning of the feet helps this circulation. It's basically the figure of 8. So mind in the tail. My tail reaches down my right leg so that my left leg can come off the ground and step. And then my tail reaches down my left leg into the left foot in order to pull me in that direction. Relaxing the wrists. Wrists are drawn up. So just feel this. Because your arms are rising, you're effectively getting heavier. Imagine you were in the water, in the pool, doing this under the water. When you brought your arms up, it would drive your body downwards. Feel the feet. You're getting heavier on the feet. Now the elbows heavy. And now as the hands go down, There's a sense that you're rising in the middle. This is driving my spine down. And then this is allowing my spine just to come up a little bit. So when we get to here, we need to physically sink a little bit more to counter the tendency to rise. So mind in the tail. Tail is going down. So remember, that requires this sort of rotation in this hip. And then this one tries to rotate. And now I need to connect completely with this foot. So all my weight needs to go into it so I can turn 90 degrees here. So again, just feel the tail and just let it loop out like this. This is the sort of action that we want. So I want the feeling that my tail has reached down under the foot, rather than the feeling that I've simply settled onto this hip. And the leg is now just a barrier between me and the ground. The leg isn't letting me through it because it's worried about me falling. The tail goes around, coils around the leg really, and I just turn. And what happens to the hands? In order to go down this leg, what I'm effectively doing is turning this way a little bit and throwing my tail. And I just use that. So as it's happening here, I let that direct my opposite hand. And then this hip has to go around this foot so that I can bring this foot up. And then I just step here, making sure I step out that way as much as I'm stepping forwards. Ward off left. And the final part of the posture is pulling down this hand. So all the time in Tai Chi, you delay the transfer of the weight. So let's try that ward off left again. So just circling around this foot and just letting that just move this hand. And now I've got to get around this leg. So again, I've got to sort of do something here. It's difficult, this bit, because you've got to open up. I open in order to swallow that foot. And then I step. Bring this arm up, but from the back leg. So I just turn here. I turn and bring that left arm up. And then I sink into the front foot and bring the other hand down. So you end up 70% in this front foot, which remember isn't much more than half. Now let's try again from the beginning. So just reaching down with my tail, stepping out to the side. down here with the tail. And now here I've got to get my tail around here. So this means that this arm is going to open up again. And then step. Now stay in the back foot, but just turn. So turning from my back leg and then sinking into the front leg for the hand that's going down. And now everything comes into this foot. So I'm turning towards this wall. There's something coming in here. You open up. Yeah, so this is just a small weight transfer. So from 70 to 100 and just a small waist turn. So there's a lot got to happen. I'm throwing my tail around like this, but the arms really open out and then come in to hold the ball. And then I step here, remember stepping out as much as forwards, keeping the weight in the back leg, and then just swing up the right arm. So I'm now 50-50, and then bringing another 20% forwards as you turn completely to this wall. So let's go from ward off left. So we want our tail to feel as active as our hands and arms. So here it's like there's an arm reaching down with this hand that's really active. And so that is going down and sort of grabbing the ground. So my tail is extending down. And then I step. Make sure you don't bring weight into the foot until you decide. And that is really just redirecting the tail into this leg. So my tail, there's a little circle, reaches down, but sort of circles as it does it. And then this just swings up. And then really everything just moves with it. But a sense here that this is sort of done something extra at the end. So the energy has come into this hand by the time you get to the end, because your weight is now in this foot. My tail going around this foot, way. And then it's got to leap across. This is why we need spirit. Spirit can be in one place and then suddenly be in another place. So we need to be flicking from foot to foot all the time. This is what makes Tai Chi require spirit. From my back leg, I'm bringing this arm up, and then I go into the front leg, and this hand comes down. And then around this foot with my tail, I open out and beckon in, draw in, and then stepping out. And then this just comes up. So remember, it's called scissors. I'm holding someone's wrist with this hand. If it's my left hand, I'm holding their right wrist. And then this arm comes up to snap the arm. So their arm is here, and this just comes up like this. And then as I come into the front foot, this hand comes in to attack. So down the back leg. That gets something going here. So I circle this and it gets this going as well. Down the back leg. And then flick the tail, just with your mind, just switch to that heel. So, whoa. And I go across here, step, and then again with the mind, just flick to here. So that foot is beginning to pull me forwards, but my weight is still here. And then I sink. So at the end, just make sure this is forwards. What we don't want is the look of too much weight in the front foot. That will just give it this feel. Keeping my hips square means that I can't bring too much weight into this foot. If anything, you're 50-50 rather than 80-20. And then I just go around this foot with my hip. Step. And then swinging this up with the scissors. And then everything just surges round and forwards. Making sure the hips are square. Now we just need to ward off. Turn a little bit more, if anything, to the right and ward off. And then I just turn to the left corner and come into the left foot. And now I continue turning, drop this hand down and then swing it up. So as I'm turning back to the right here, I want to remain in the left foot until my two hands are touching, and then I come forwards. So roll back into press, and then I move back, just separating the hands, and then I move forwards, pushing. So let's go from here. So this first little bit, it's not as straightforward as it looks. So what's basically got to happen is you've got to turn this way a little bit to get this arm in to ward off. But you have to turn this way a little bit to extend this arm forwards. This is what we call turning the waist in both directions at the same time. So the feeling is that I've sort of done this, and then at the end, I just extend this hand forwards and around. So it's like I'm making a small inner circle with my left hand and a broad outer circle with my right hand, and they're going in opposite directions. So I just turn to the right a little bit to get the left hand in position, and then I just turn to the left a little bit to get the right hand in position without letting that left turn move this hand out. So now the person is sandwiched between my two hands. They're here. I've got one hand in front of me protecting me, and I've got the other hand around the back of them. And then I just turn my whole body to draw them through. And then here you can either just drop this hand down and let it swing up, which is what John used to do, or you can just let it go through like this and then come back, which is what Chen Manqing used to do. The important thing is to wait until your hands are touching and you're facing forwards before you bring the weight forwards. And then I come forwards. And again, it's only a little bit. You don't move the body that much. And then here, just separating. So here it's got this feeling of this, like two circles. So as you move back, your hands separate and rise up. And then as you sink into the back foot, the hands are dropping and coming underneath the circle. And then as you come forwards, they're coming up the circle, but inside. remember, when you attack, the elbows are heavy. So the elbows are dropped, the wrists are dropped, and the feeling is that the middle fingers are vertical. But your hands are not flat facing forwards. They're sort of almost turned towards each other. So let's try the meaty bit. So the steps and then grass sparrow's toe. Turning as much as you can here, really. And now I have to grab this foot. So my tail needs to switch. And then here I need to grab this foot. So my tail again switches. As I bring the weight in this foot, this hand comes down. And now I just got to go around this foot. And that will enable me to open up the arms and swallow. Turning a little bit to the right and then a little bit to the left. So turning to the right really for the left hand and turning to the left for the right hand. The arms just drop a little bit here. And then just turning. Turning back. Rest. Back opening the arms up and dropping, really sinking into that back leg. Just try it once from the beginning. So sinking into the right leg by extending my tail around the leg. And now extending the tail here. Drawing myself across and circling the hands. Relax the wrists. Stay in the back foot and then come forwards. Sandwiching the person between your two arms. Moving the sandwich through. On this bit here, really feel the waist leading. So my waist is turning this way, which is dragging my arms around. Now my waist is already turning back. So it's a good place in the form to feel the separation between mind and body. The body's always lagging. Really sink down into that foot by extending the tail down and then just come forwards. And as you come forwards, just feel the cross energy. As you're driving from the back leg, the energy is surging into the left hand, the right hand, so the front hand. And then as you come here, this leg is trying to push this hip back to stop this from happening. And that is pushing energy up into the left hand. From the press, you open up, really sink into the back leg. And then as you start coming out of the back leg, the energy is pushing up into this hand. And then as you sink into the front leg, the energy's coming into this hand. So when you practice the form on your own, you try and make all of these things as explicit as possible. But when you're practicing in public or with your students in a class situation, you hide them. So this is traditionally what happens. Chinese are big into secrets. So here you'd really go to town with the waist, and then here extend and extend. Let's just bring it up to attention, but with the toes pointing in. So I normally start the form like this. It's easier to get this hip movement, but it also means it's more difficult to lift your foot up. The way we start the form with that step out, that's not the way Chen Manqing did it. Chen Manqing always started like this. And then the first thing he would do is just lifting the hands up. And I've started teaching someone, and they showed me the way they did it, which was just starting like this. And then the first thing that they do is just step forwards like this. And then they do this, yeah? So lots of different ways of doing it. So starting with the heels together was Dr. Chi's way, which John adopted. Feel your tail just hanging down, but it's always wriggling. It's like a little maggot, like a little worm. You know, remember those nematode worms that they swim by making a figure of 8 like this? So there's that sort of very primitive, primal activity from that thalassic stage, that stage when we were ocean creatures before we left the seas. So that's very much the tail. So the bottom of the tail is the oldest, the primitive. And then as we get up the spine, it gets more and more sort of modern, if you like. And until now, this is just totally dominant.